From beautiful Phoenix, Arizona, it is the Neglected News Report. I'm your host, Scott Mitchell, along with my brother, Kevin.
Happy New Year.
Well, it's been a long time, folks. We haven't been on since November 15th. That's like a week and a half before Thanksgiving. But we're back. Did you miss us? Anyway.
What, all 12 of our listeners?
Well, I don't know. I mean, we've got people that are listening to us on YouTube, plus there have been people actually liking our Facebook page. I don't know if you know about that.
Really?
Yeah, I've gotten some likes. People I don't even know. People from out of state.
Probably the NSA.
Could be. Could be a plant. Well, I'll tell you what. The weather in Phoenix here is different. It's still better than a lot of you. The better weather than a lot of where a lot of you live.
A lot of snow up north and some crisp evenings down here.
Yeah, it's gotten down below freezing a few times. I saw frost on my grass in the backyard the last 2 mornings.
I've been either covering my plants or bringing them in.
And I'm telling you what, broccoli and cauliflower are very resilient. They stand the cold really well. I had read that they can stand below freezing, a little bit below freezing, and it's true.
See, for a lot of you who don't know, Phoenix has 2 growing seasons. We have the spring, and then we have the winter, because the summers are pretty much too hot to grow things.
I mean, you can pretty much plant up until November here, and you just have to be careful. You got to make sure, though, if you're going to plant that late, you got to make sure you plant from plant and not seed, because the seeds might not get warm enough for them to germinate. We
have tons of citrus, oranges, lemons, grapefruit, you name it, that are. I was talking to somebody the other day, and I was wondering out loud, I wonder how much fruit down here rots on the trees instead of making it to market or getting it to somebody who would eat it. It's kind of a shame.
Yeah, I mean, because this is the time of year right here. This month, January, is usually when we pick.
I have a friend who owns a sports bar, and recently produce has gotten so expensive that like a box of limes or a box of lemons they're like $20. So I go into a lot of vacant bank-owned properties every day, and anytime I see citrus sitting in the trees doing nothing, I usually pick it and I bring it in for her to save her some bucks.
Yep. Well, a lot's happened since we were last here, and one thing that's happened is got new microphones for us. You hear that? Hear that noise? I'm scratching myself on the belly.
Oh boy!
And it's like 2 feet away from the microphone. That's how sensitive these mics are.
Good thing we don't have video.
Yeah, I know. Well, we're not going to. Yeah, I got some new microphones, new headsets since we were last on, and hopefully it'll improve the sound. I don't hear the hissing as much. Do you?
Nope. Just
the room.
So what we have now to report for the first of the year, since we're only a few days in it, and not any real news has occurred. What has occurred, though, are taxes.
Yeah, I found something a friend of ours posted on Facebook. It's a little article from the Women's Resistance Movement. It says, a reminder for those who forgot, or for many that don't know, here's what will happen on January 1st, 2015. Top Medicare tax went from 1.45 to 2.35%. Top income tax bracket went from 35% to 39.6%. Top income payroll tax went from 37.4 to 52.2%. Capital gains tax went from 15% to 28%. Dividends tax went from 15% to 39.6%. Estate, here's one that gets me. This really kind of gets to me a lot. Estate tax went from 0% to 55%.
Death tax.
Yeah, so you can't even leave stuff to your heirs, to your family, when you pass away.
This is what happens when liberals gain power.
Okay, and remember this fact. Those taxes were all passed only with Democratic votes. No Republicans voted for these taxes. These taxes were all passed under the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. If you think that is important, that everyone in the U.S. should know this, please share it.
And also the fines kick in this year.
Yep. Fortunately, I don't have to worry about that. I work for a company that's very proactive in this kind of stuff.
So a friend of mine posted something on New Year's Eve on Facebook. She said, addressing all of her California friends, she lives in San Diego, and she said, better fill your tank up tonight because tomorrow the gas tax kicks in. Well, on January 1st, all of California was hit with a 30-cent per gallon tax on gasoline. And I asked her, I said, "Are you serious? Per gallon?" She said, "Yes." So if you have a 30-gallon tank in your truck, like I do, that 30 cents is an extra $9 to me out of my pocket to fill my truck. Mm-hmm. And I've probably filled my truck 3 times a week, maybe 4.
Think about it this way.
Think about that. Extrapolate that. What that tax means per year.
Okay.
That's thousands of dollars.
Think about it. Don't even go that far. Okay. Think about it this way. Let's say you live in California. You have a gas tank that's as big as Kevin's or bigger. $30 each time you fill it up. Now, just say you fill it up once a week. Kevin fills it up a lot more often than that. But let's say you fill it up once a week. That's $30. Let's say you're a person who likes going to Starbucks every morning.
Well, you're not going to be.
You're not going to be going to Starbucks. It's going to be taking money out of the economy, folks.
It doesn't matter because I guarantee, I personally don't know where the money's going to, but I guarantee it's going to go to pay off bad ideas. Probably high pensions for government workers. Who knows? Maybe some environmental project or something.
And you know what? And I'm going to say this, and if you're offended, I don't really care. If you're one of those people that gets on your high horse about the profits that the oil companies make, get off the darn high horse.
They don't.
Because guess what? It might be a large dollar amount, but as a percentage of what
the smallest,
as a percentage of what they invest to bring this oil to market, it's minuscule. They take all the risk. The government, let's use the federal government as an example, or you could use California state government. They do nothing. Yet the federal government charges 18 cents per gallon, and California puts another 30 cents per gallon on top of that.
Oh,
18% and 30%.
On top of what they're already.
I'm sorry, it's not per gallon. Yeah, it's 18%. It's not 18 cents. It's 18% on top of what you pay per gallon.
And then, going back 30%. Going back to the business of oil and gasoline, and you get into the retail side of selling gasoline, i.e. owning a gas station. Those gas stations maybe make a penny or two per gallon on a gallon of gas. That's why they live off the mini marts that they have,
Yep. And I happen to know that to be a
junk
fact.
Food and stuff.
I happen to know that to be a fact because 30 years ago or more, when I was going to college, I worked at one of those, and I actually had to change prices. I managed one for a little while. We made our money off of the mini mart there.
Oh yeah, I had a buddy who said the very same thing. Who owned an Exxon station, and he said, "I'm not in business to sell gas. I'm in the business to sell potato chips and big gulps."
So get off your high horse about oil companies making profits. You got to get this through your head, folks. If you think businesses are in business to create jobs, they're not. They're in business to make profit. They have to create jobs in order to make that profit. It's their primary reason for existence is not to create jobs. So don't believe what the government's trying to tell you to believe.
Do you know how
things are?
Do you know how many hidden taxes there are out there? What do you think on New Year's Eve DUI checkpoints? What do you think those are?
What's revenue generation?
Do you think that's all about protecting the public from drunks? It isn't. It's big business. I have many friends who've had DUIs, and after it's all said and done, it costs out of pocket $10,000 to $15,000. It costs.
And you know what? We had photo radar here in Phoenix up until about 2 or 3 years ago, and the reason why they got rid of it, it's because it cost too much to litigate each of the cases in the courts that it was worth.
And one of the guys who checked, who would unload and unload the camera, got shot once. Remember that?
Yeah.
Some drive-by got redneck, I guess.
But I mean, that's why it was just revenue generation. It was costing them too much to keep the program running.
Yeah, tickets, speeding, DUIs, you name it. It's all, those are hidden taxes. I understand there is an element of protecting the population from drunk people. I get that. But we're talking people that are, 0.08 and below getting, having their lives ruined.
Yeah, I can speak to that, folks. I had one back in 1998. I'm not going to do it again. I've been very careful ever since then. Kevin will vouch for me on that.
Well, here in Arizona, it's mandatory when you get a DUI, you have the interlock it's in order to start your car, you have to blow into this thing that will unlock your ignition. And if it doesn't, and if you've been drinking, you're not only are you not driving, but that's a strike against you that you even attempted to. And on top of that, you pay a monthly fee to rent it. It's just a huge.
You pay a monthly fee to have the government monitor you like a criminal.
And then on top of that, you've got the vulture lawyers who get another 10,000 from you because they tell you, yeah, I can beat this. We can beat this. No, you can't. 99% of them you can't.
See, mine could, even back in 1998 when I got mine, back when the laws weren't as strict. They were strict. They were the strictest in the country at the time, but they're not as strict as they are now. I had a lawyer who, he says, look, I'm not going to be able to get you off, but I will lessen the impact on your life. And he did.
It's kind of interesting. In Arizona, we have probably the most punitive DUI laws, but the most liberal gun laws. So go figure.
Yeah, well, let me see if I get that right. Yeah, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to call them liberal. I'd call them gun owner friendly.
Okay, we interpret the Second Amendment literally.
Literally, yeah. And as a result, we always get the highest marks from the NRA as being the most gun-friendly state in the country.
And we don't have high crime.
Even more so than Texas.
The crime rate in Phoenix is 1% of that of Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
I just threw that out. I don't know that for a fact.
Actually, the biggest crime has nothing to do with anyone that lives here. The biggest crime is kidnapping.
Yeah,
it has to do with the cartels, the Mexican cartels down south. Next
to Mexico City, Phoenix, Arizona is the largest kidnapping. It's kidnapped capital of the world, next to Mexico City.
Right, and that's because the borders are just really it's really hard to keep the cartels away.
Well, when you have governments that don't care, and it's not just Obama, George Bush before him, and soon to be Jeb Bush. They're all pro, quote unquote, air quotes, immigration. It's not immigration. It's basically the eradication of borders.
And then when local and state governments try to do what the federal government should be doing, they take us to court.
Oh yeah, look at Sheriff Joe. How often has he been sued?
Mm-hmm. Not to mention the House bill, the Arizona House bill that we passed. What was that? 1060?
You mean showing ID at the?
Yeah.
When you vote?
The one that they had the recall election about. I forget. It was a few years ago. It was Proposition 1060. The people of Arizona voted on it, but it was taken to court by Eric Holder.
It doesn't matter. Anymore it doesn't matter because it doesn't matter what the people want because the powers that be will put it in front of the black robe not fascists, but the black robe judges to strike down whatever the people want anyway. So
yeah, really, for lack of a better word, let's call them judges.
Yeah, not fascists. Sorry.
Anyway, but we're off our high horse.
So, Scott, do you have any predictions for 2015?
I predict that it's kind of hard. I've been trying to think through this. I think things in the House are going to continue like they are.
Oh yeah, 60% of people want John Boehner out as Speaker.
In the Senate, you might see some change. I'm hoping against hope that somehow. No, I don't know.
Harry Reid broke his face. You heard that?
Yeah, I heard about that. Oh wow, boy.
I'm resisting the urge to make a joke out of it, but I'm not going to because I don't wish anything bad on anybody.
How does a guy get dressed in the morning without breaking his arm?
But did you read that?
Anyway,
that's not the first time it's happened.
I know. I read that.
He's had other physical
from what I've heard
for exercising.
From what I've heard, he's had a bad year in the physical fitness department when it comes to trying to get physically fit. I mean, the best thing for him, for Harry Reid, is a high carbohydrate diet.
Well, he looks like an undertaker.
Well, no, he looks like an undertaker's customer. He looks like
like he should be driving a hearse. Sorry, but he does.
He does. Kind of. He looks like the Crypt Keeper from Tales from the Crypt.
Well,
guy's emaciated.
I'm accused very often of being a fearmonger, the sky is falling sort of guy, and actually I'm not. I'm probably one of your more optimistic people in this world. I've always been half, the cup is half full sort of person.
I've been pretty much the same way.
All I can do is look at the information that is available to all of us to look at and come to my conclusions. And my conclusions are sometimes go against what the people who take the blue pill as opposed to the red pill think. That's an allusion to the movie The Matrix. If you take the blue pill, you stay in the Matrix and stay in the fiction.
And if you take the red pill, you get to see what's in the rabbit hole, down the rabbit hole.
And Scott and I are red pill takers. We look down the rabbit hole and we see what the world is really like. For instance, I've got many friends who are heavily invested in our economic system, i.e., stocks and paper money. And Scott and I have been buying hard assets as of lately. Things
little by little,
precious metals, food, survival stuff. Prepper.
Kevin's ahead of me on the food right now.
Yeah, I guess you would call me a prepper. But I get made fun of by the people that are heavily invested in an economy that has $18 trillion in debt and that prints money like it's going out of style. And I'm the crazy one. They laugh at, well, look at silver. It's at spot rates at $15. Okay, so that's a good time to buy. It's cheap. Well, what kind of investment is that? Well, because you're looking at it like you're looking at a stock. Mm-hmm. Silver is not a stock. Silver is a store of value. It will always be there. It's a precious commodity.
Hedge against inflation.
It's a hedge against inflation. It always has been for 5,000 years. Silver and gold. What did the Magi bring to Christ and Mary and Joseph?
Incense, myrrh, and gold.
Gold. And you know what the gold was used for? By the way, they were on the run for quite a while.
Think about this.
How did they get safe passage to Egypt, for example? They had hard assets.
Right. Think about this too. Gold has driven a lot of expansion in this country, in this world, especially in North America. Think about it. The Spanish conquistadors went to South America, what? To look for gold, the city of gold. People went from the eastern part of the U.S. once the Louisiana Purchase took place in 1802, or was it 1804? I forget. Anyway, in the early 1800s, people went from the east out west when gold was discovered in California, 1848. Was it 48? 48.
What, 49? 1849.
49, okay.
49ers, yeah.
At Sutter's Mill. Yeah, that's right. There was another one in 1848, too.
Well, there was Klondike. They had one up in Canada.
People went from the east to the west to try to get gold. It's because, why? Why would they go after something if it didn't have what? Value.
Intrinsic value.
If it wasn't intrinsic value in itself.
On its face value.
There were always, and even in the early days before gold, what was one of the biggest industries in North America? Fur trading. It's a hard asset.
John Jacob Astor.
It's a hard asset.
Made his wealth. It always amazes me. I get made fun of all the time. Hey, Mitchell, you got any silver on you? Funny. But I find it amazing that people will people kind of look at me like I'm a coin collector. No, I'm a silver collector. I can't afford gold, so I buy silver. So they make fun of me for that. And they can't even look at it and see that it's intrinsic value, yet they will salivate at a stack of $100 bills.
Yeah, I know.
Paper. They'll sit there and salivate and rub their hands.
Could it be because that's readily convertible into goods and services?
I don't know. I just think they've been brainwashed over the years to believe that. But you know what?
They'll even salivate over an increase on their limit on their credit cards.
But I'll tell you who doesn't salivate over paper money and does salivate over precious metals, and that's the East.
Yep. That's
Russia, China, India, and parts of Africa. Mm-hmm. Those people are stockpiling that stuff, and they're stockpiling it for a reason. And the reason is that they see what's going to happen, and then that's the crash of the dollar. And what is going to happen after the U.S. dollar is no longer the reserve currency, and oil is no longer bought and sold in dollars, i.e. the petrodollar. Something's going to have to fill that void. Mm-hmm. And what we're seeing right now with the BRIC nations stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China. That also includes South Africa and some other countries. What you're seeing is they're laying the foundation for a new currency when, not if, when the dollar fails. And it's probably going to be based on gold and silver, like money has always been.
Well, let's go into some of the details why Russia and China at least would want this to happen. You notice that gas prices are falling dramatically in the last month.
Yep.
Why is that happening? You would be led to believe that it's because we've been kind of conserving. It's also because we've also been getting Saudi Arabia to produce more. And the reason why we're doing that is because we want to bring down the price of oil and bankrupt Russia.
That's exactly right. 60% of Russia's economy is based on oil.
I bet you guys didn't. A lot of you didn't know that Russia is a leading oil exporter in the world, did you?
All of Europe's oil comes from Russia. Mm-hmm. Also, if you look at what's going on in Ukraine, that's all based on oil too. Because what's going to happen is if NATO takes over Ukraine and it's basically going to impede the flow of oil. Mm-hmm. And plus, people don't realize this: Ukraine has been part of Russia for hundreds and hundreds of years. Mm-hmm. It's not like they're going in there and taking them over. Mm-hmm. But this is all about currency, because if the stronger Russia gets, with oil, and the stronger they get through starting their own currency, the weaker we get, and the result of a weak dollar is going to be probably war. Currency. That video that I posted. Right. Do you know the average lifespan of fiat currency? You know how long it is?
About 27 years.
27 years, and most don't even get there. The only exception has been the British pound, British sterling. It's been around since 1679 or 16.
And they said over 300 years.
89 or somewhere in there. The only reason, this is me talking, I think it's lasted that long is, if you think about it, during that period from the 18th century, the late 17th century forward, you had the British Empire. The British Empire controlled everyone's wealth. China's, India's, mm-hmm. Africa. They controlled all the diamonds, all the precious metals, everything. So they basically were pilfering from the rest of the world.
But the sun pretty much set on the British Empire starting around World War I.
However, we're their proxy. The United States and Washington and London are tied at the waist. So even after World War II, the United States was Britain's closest ally. Mm-hmm. And they basically had, like a bodyguard in the United States to protect them. So they've been for the last 300 plus years, they've been pretty lucky. But that is going to end, and I don't know if it's 2015. All I can tell you is it will. I don't have a time frame. We dodged the bullet in 2007 with the big crash of 2007 mm-hmm. by printing more money and just flooding the system with it. That ain't going to happen. That's not going to work again. Nope. Because we're at 0% interest rates as it is. The minute interest rates go up.
It's not only that, but if we start doing that, other countries are going to see that, and they're just going to say, let's get rid of the petrodollar.
Well, they already are. You've already seen it.
It'll accelerate it. And what did they do? They just stopped printing last year, 2014.
Well, they can start the printers up.
I know. Well, they saw the danger in doing it. Instead, they decided to increase oil production.
We were talking earlier about a gentleman named Dr. Paul Craig Roberts. He used to be in the Reagan administration. He was former assistant secretary of the Treasury, and he ties in Russia's war doctrine and the unfolding economic conditions and how it's going to affect the geopolitical chessboard. And he says this, and it kind of paints a dire picture. He says, the financial markets are based on manipulation, not on fundamentals. This is what we've been telling you for some time now. The manipulation is untenable. With debt exploding, negative real interest rates make no sense. With real consumer incomes, real consumer credit, and real retail sales stagnant or falling, the stock market is a bubble. Yes, it is. Excuse me. With Russia, China, and other countries moving away from the use of the dollar to settle international accounts, with Russia developing an alternative to the financial network, the BRICS nations, which I just outlined, are developing alternatives to the International Monetary Fund and World Bank, and with other parts of the world developing their own credit card and internet systems, the U.S. dollar, along with the Japanese and European currencies that are being printed in order to support the dollar's exchange value, could experience a dramatic drop in exchange value, which would make the import-dependent Western world dysfunctional.
And by the way, the only reason why we're import-dependent is because all of our manufacturing has been shipped overseas.
That's by design.
Because of government regulation, taxes, whatnot.
Excuse me. Got a dry throat here. So yeah, what I'm trying to tell you is that the economics and the geopolitical and the war are intricately entwined. They're one. You tell me this. You got Russia, who are really pushing into a corner right now. Got to say something. I got a cough.
We're really pushing Russia into a corner, and they're not going to stand it for too long.
Okay, so we've driven the price of oil down to $60 a barrel right now. It should be somewhere up around 100. That's basically what it's been for hovering around for several years. Like I said again, Russia's 60% of the economy, Russian economy. 60% of the Russian economy is oil. So we're devaluing that. Okay. We're pushing Russia's buttons in Syria. We're saber rattling in Syria, and we're saber rattling in Ukraine. And he warned NATO several months ago that he has nukes. Of course, we didn't need him to say that, but boy, I'm sorry.
There's something you got to realize about Russia in their history. Russia, they're very paranoid people.
They've been attacked.
many, over thousands of years. They've been attacked. The
Mongols attacked them. Kublai Khan attacked them.
And they don't take anyone attacking them, whether it's militarily or economically, very well.
Think of this. Think of the names. Genghis Khan.
Or no, excuse me. Genghis Khan.
As John Kerry would say.
Yes.
Genghis Khan, Napoleon, and Hitler. What do those three have in common? All three of them. I think all three of them invaded Russia. The most successful one being Genghis Khan, actually.
Yeah, because Hitler eventually lost, but at a large cost for Russia. And Napoleon got slaughtered at Waterloo.
I think, what did Germany lose? In 20 million? Does that sound right?
I'm not sure. But Russians lost a lot during World War II. Probably a third of their male population.
So right now we're beginning to see how wars actually start, because we already are in a Cold War with Russia. We're not in a hot one yet.
Don't believe they're our friend. That's what people have been for 25 years since the fall of the Berlin Wall. Yeah. People have been trying to push this narrative that they are our friend. They aren't our friend.
They're not. But we're also pushing their buttons, and we're gonna wake the sleeping bear, and because he's gonna have no other alternative, and we're doing everything in our power to antagonize him.
At most, we've had an easing of tensions over the last 25 years, but it's ramping up again.
You're gonna have to do more talking because my throat is.
And what are war? There are two things that wars are started over. Okay, economical reasons or to gain land, to expand.
And it's not religion like everybody would lead you to believe.
No, in this case. It's not. It's not. I mean, the only ones that have actually, the only religious, if any of you out there are Muslims, please forgive me, but if you read your history, you'll see it. The pretty much the only time that religion has been the impetus for war or for whatever has been the spread of Islam. If you read your history, you'll know that it was spread by force across Asia, Europe, whatnot.
The Crusades were not the result of marauding, Christians going there to steal.
No, the reason, if you really read your history, the Crusades were started because the Muslims took over the Holy Land, and the Christians from Europe went down there to take it back. That's all. That's what it was. They were trying to get back what was for everyone.
Wars are always about land, resources, basically
pretty much economics and land. That's why they say that. I've heard numerous people talk about this. Russia's talked about it. Mike Church on Sirius XM, Andrew Wilk on Sirius XM. After everything crashes, the one thing that's going to be worth something besides precious metals is land.
Well, the Chinese are already buying that up.
But guess what? Who owns a lot of the residential land in this country? The U.S. government. Through government-insured loans.
Well, the
Chinese,
they
can call in a marker on that.
It's estimated the Chinese own 25% of Manhattan.
That's not surprising.
Well, they just bought the Astoria, Waldorf Astoria. They overpaid for it, but they own it now. They paid like $1 billion for the Waldorf Astoria.
And I remember hearing about this when this first started, like in the late 70s. I'm like, why are we letting this happen?
Let me ask you a question. The Chinese I don't know if they still are the biggest buyers of our debt. I think the Japanese are up there too. But let me ask you something. Let's say we one day default on our debt. And that could happen with rising interest rates. Because we have to finance our debt using, right now we're paying zero. What are we paying? Zero on our treasuries? We're paying nothing basically, but that'll change when interest rates go up. So let's say we default on our debt, and we owe China trillions and trillions of dollars. What are they going to get in return for that? Probably our land.
Yep.
Natural parks, businesses.
What was that one commercial where from a few years back where it showed this Chinese official speaking on the floor of whatever their government house was or whatever, and he was talking about this, how we bought the land from the Americans, and little did they know that they were just sealing their own fate. And he just starts laughing. What commercial was that? You know the one I'm talking about, don't you?
Yeah, but that goes with the theory that the Chinese think long term. We don't. We think in 1-2 year blocks.
Chinese think in long term, as do jihadists. They think in not just 1 or 2 days or weeks. They think in blocks of 10, 20, 30, 100 years. They're patient.
And by the way, the jihadists, ISIS, ISIL, whatever you want to call them, they're just tools. What you're seeing right now is...
And we mean that in the literal, not the figurative sense.
Yeah, they're tools. They're being used by the big guys. They're just... The real war that's going on is between, Russia and China and Iran on one side, and the EU, NATO on the other, the United States, NATO on the other. And these are just, what you're seeing with ISIL is just, ISIL could be dealt with in a day or two. I mean, they're just, it's just there to get Americans all rah, to go to war again.
Which goes to something I read today.
USA.
Yeah, exactly. Nationalism.
That makes me sick when I hear.
Because nationalism is not based in fact; it's based in emotion.
Yeah.
Which goes to the whole. All this stuff is meant to distract you from what's really going on. I read an article. It was from the New York Times this morning. The unending anxiety of an ICYMI world. ICYMI stands for in case you missed it. How many times on Facebook have you seen someone post in case you missed it? and then there's an article like from one of the whatever the news outlets you have on your news feed or whatever. It's because everyone doesn't want to miss what's going on. I mean, I used to be like that. When I first got on Facebook, I would get on there, I would get caught up every night. 4 hours later, it was time to go to bed. Didn't have time for anything else. And I said, the heck with this. Screw this. I'm not going to do this. I read the first 2 or 3 dozen postings, and then I say, forget it. I'm not going to do any more. I have more time. I have more important things to do with my time than to do this. But the thing is, that's the world we live in. Everything is coming at us so fast and furious. We feel like we have to catch up on what the latest on Facebook is, what the latest TV show is, what the latest music is, whatever, to the point to where we miss what's really going on. We get so distracted by the fluff, the inconsequential stuff, the superfluous stuff, that we don't pay attention to what's really going on.
Yeah, and there was an interesting article, earlier this week on Drudge, and it pertained to how the Russian people's approval rating of Americans is at its lowest. It's lower than it ever was in the Cold War. Mm-hmm. And they've actually taken to calling the average American names, the pejoratives in Russian, and one of them is somebody that's one word I forgot what it was, meant somebody too stupid to know how to fix anything, but who has gadgets to get him out of trouble.
MacGyver.
No, I guess so. But that was a pejorative. This one word means all that in one. Well, it's basically stupid Americans, who have technology.
They don't know how to use it.
Or maybe. Or if they didn't have, the inference is if they didn't have technology, they'd be just knuckle-dragging Neanderthals.
Right. I mean, I read an article earlier this week, too, from this professor in Britain who said, we have a generation who have all these gadgets. They don't know how to fix anything.
Don't know how to fix them.
It's like, because it's so disposable. Everything's so disposable. I keep all my old cell phones, for crying out loud.
But they're disposable, but they've also gotten complicated. You can't work on your own vehicle anymore. You can change the plugs.
Yeah, I do basic stuff.
Things like that. But you can't. You have to be able to have one of the computer readers.
Right. Well, they're not expensive at all. They're like $100.
Still working on is
right. Well, I mean, I have the engine light, the check engine light going on off of my car again. I had it checked, and the code for it is my O2 sensors need replacing.
Case in point.
Which is not hard.
Thank God I live next door to a guy who loves to tinker. And my window broke on my automatic window on my truck. I don't know if you've ever taken apart one of the doors to I have a Chevy Silverado pickup. Have you ever taken apart one of those doors? I
just did, remember? I had to fix my power window a few weeks ago.
It's a pain in the butt, but I live next...
wasn't that hard, really.
I live next door to a guy who can fix anything. And someone like that will be worth his weight in gold if society ever breaks down.
Yeah, if society breaks down, there's going to be 5 things that'll be of value. Guns and ammo. Food, precious metals, and marketable skills.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got the skills. I can fix things. Not just cars. I can fix mechanical things.
They say booze will be a good barter.
Well, yeah, too. True. I forgot about that. But, I mean, luckily, I know I can do that kind of stuff myself.
Here's another thing. I don't mean to sound sexist or anything, because that's not my intention. Do you remember when we were kids, Scott? Every Christmas, you'd open up the newspapers and look at all the sales that were going on, and they always had sewing machines. Yeah. Sewing machines on sale for Christmas to buy mom a sewing machine, or buy, daughter, aunt, or whoever, sewing machines. Because back then, women sewed. Mm-hmm. They had that, and trust me, if society ever breaks down, sewing is going to be very important. Mm-hmm. Especially if you have to make your own clothes. Mm-hmm. You have to mend your own clothes. That was another thing when we were kids. We ripped our pants. Mom would sew them, or we would put patches on the knees. They don't do that anymore. Can you imagine seeing a kid with a patch on his knees these days?
I think cooking will be a valuable skill too.
Well, a lot of women don't cook.
That's what I'm saying.
I did all the cooking
no
in my
more.
family.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, because we're not going to have as much to work with. You have to make it taste good.
So that, charge that people don't know how to fix things is probably pretty true.
I honestly believe it is. I mean, I still, luckily, I haven't had to take my car to a garage. I've only had to take my truck to the garage once a few years ago to have one of the emission things put on it. But I bought the part myself and had them put it on.
Well, my water pump went out about a year ago. It cost me $600 to have it taken care of. My next door neighbor could have done it for $100. He charges me $50 labor, and he could have gotten a rebuilt water pump for under $100.
Yeah, I bought a car from the guy too, and he knows what he's doing.
So
he told me he'd install those O2 sensors for $25. Can't beat that, and the sensors are like $80 each.
Well, what do you think? What? Give me a good 2015, some big news, something that you think's going to happen.
Obama comes out of the closet, admits he's gay. I don't know.
Well, speaking of Obama, here's a big prediction. I think he's going to be bold, BOLD. I think he's going to all holds barred. I
mean, the guy's cocky. He says, "I got a cell phone and a pen."
Yeah, and then what we were talking earlier, Krauthammer. Mm-hmm. Krauthammer was talking about how the Republicans should just pass laws and put the onus on Obama to either sign them or not. Okay, what's the result of that? So he doesn't sign them, so we can point our fingers and say, "See, well, that's what this last election was about." It was one big C.
Or maybe it's for the people who didn't vote.
Well, okay, when the president vetoes any bill, and what does Congress have to pass it by in order so the president can't veto it again?
2/3.
2/3. We don't have enough. There's not enough. So
in the House we might.
But what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to fight him on his executive orders, his memos, memoranda, and so forth.
Once again,
we can't allow him to continue that.
Once again, folks, executive orders are meant to be used as a means to enact or execute legislation that has been passed by Congress and signed into law by the president. It is not meant to create new law.
Now, what we do have, two things that we have at our disposal. First of all, we could start impeachment proceedings if he does those things, because we have majorities in both houses.
But then you get Joe Biden as president if he's removed.
Oh, whatever. But then at least we can point to Joe and say, hey, look, when you overreach, look what happens.
Exactly, that's true.
Secondly, because Congress controls the purse strings,
we can refuse to fund things.
We could refuse to fund things, and again, we'll be accused of shutting down the government and so forth. Who remembers what the last time the government was shut down? Who got hurt?
Really shut down?
Nobody.
No.
Nobody even noticed it.
And here's what I think is going to happen by him not signing bills, by vetoing them. All of a sudden, the title of the party of no is going to flip over to the Democrats.
If the media does its job, which they probably won't, they'll probably figure out. Speaking of which, we've been told that this last election didn't mean anything. That basically the Republicans are going to have to work with the president. What? They just lost the Senate and lost how many seats in the House? Yet the media is telling us that the Republicans are going to have to work with the president. But that's what they're going to do. They're going to paint this as, if the Republicans go after the president, they're going to paint it in a biased way.
And he says I'm gonna get more use out of my pen this time around. In other words, he's gonna veto things. It just.
Hopefully he has a better pen stroke than a golf stroke.
Yeah. I'm trying to think for this year, predictions.
I think we're going to be closer and closer to war.
Yeah.
Because the economy we're pushing Putin. We're pushing him, and he's going to retaliate.
And some of it might happen on American soil. Maybe not on the mainland, but on U.S. territories. Maybe Alaska and or Hawaii. Some might happen on the coasts.
Well, we haven't had our nose punched in a while, that's for sure.
I'm thinking some of it could happen here in Arizona, too, because we've got a porous southern border like you wouldn't believe.
And we have the largest nuclear plant in the country.
It's in the world.
Is it in the world?
Yeah, last time I checked. Palo Verde nuclear plant, yeah.
And it's only a few miles outside of Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
It's a town of...
It's about 30 miles away.
Buckeye. But there's... You know who Peter Schiff is?
Yeah, he's an economist.
He's an economist. And again, this is... Again, think of war and economics tied at the hip, because they are. That's what starts. World War II started because of sanctions we had. Well, our involvement in it, that is, started because of sanctions we had on Japan, and they attacked.
Yeah,
us.
our involvement in it. Yeah.
So, Peter Schiff predicted the meltdown of 2007. Here's what he says. He's a CEO of Euro Pacific Capital, and he delivered a harsh warning to investors in a recent interview on Fox Business. He said, "I think we're heading for a worse economic crisis than we had in 2007. He said, "You're going to have a collapse in the dollar, a huge spike in interest rates, and our whole economy, which is built on the foundation of cheap money, is going to topple when you pull the rug out from under it." Schiff says that despite phony signs of an economic recovery, I call it a zombie economy, by the way. Mm-hmm. I don't call it that, but Zero Hedge calls it that. Zero Hedge is a good website, by the way, zerohedge.com, if you want economic information. Anyway, Schiff says that despite phony signs of an economic recovery, the cancer destroying America stems from a lethal concoction of our $18 trillion federal debt and the Fed's never-ending money printing. See, this is not Scott and I saying this. This is, any economist that's not drinking the Kool-Aid, the Fed's Kool-Aid, will tell you this. It just, how long could you as a family exist by taking one credit card to pay off another credit card, to pay off another credit card, to pay off, how long could that go on? And right now, as a country, we're making minimum payments on our credit card.
Mm-hmm.
According to currently, Yellen and the Fed is buying nearly $1 trillion of Treasury and mortgage bonds a year. Do you know what that's called? It's called monetizing the debt. They're printing money to pay off the interest on debt.
It's like check kiting.
You would go to jail for it.
Yeah.
It's a Ponzi scheme. It's everything illegal you can think of. There's about $75 billion per month against a budget deficit that is about the same level. According to Schiff, these numbers are unsustainable, and the Fed has no credible exit strategy. Eventually, interest rates will rise, and when they do, Schiff says, stocks will tank and bonds dip to nothing. Massive new tax hikes will be imposed, and programs and entitlements will be cut to the bone. Now, I want to ask you, where's that tax money going to come from? If the economy implodes, the dollar... where are you going to get that tax money?
Right.
The crisis is imminent, Schiff said. I don't think Obama is going to finish his second term without the bottom dropping out. And stock market investors are oblivious to the problems. We're broke, he said. We owe trillions. Look at our budget deficit. Look at the debt to GDP ratio, the unfunded liabilities. If we were in the Eurozone, they would kick us out. Yeah, we would be like Greece. Mm-hmm. They would kick us out. Schiff points out, but they're no better, trust me. Schiff points out that the market gains experienced recently with the Dow first topping 17,000 on its way to setting record highs are giving investors a false sense of security. It's not that the stock market, and this is key, listen to this. It's not that the stock market is gaining value, it's that our money is losing value. And so
it takes more dollars to buy the stock than it used to.
And so if you have a debased currency, a devalued currency, the price of everything goes up. Stocks are no exception, he said. The Fed knows that the U.S. economy is not recovering, he noted. We're told every day that it is recovering. He says the Fed knows that the U.S. economy is not recovering. It simply is being kept from collapse by artificially low interest rates and quantitative easing, hence the name zombie economy.
And that is also why silver is at $15 an ounce and gold has come down too.
Well, that's being manipulated. It should right now. Everything's messed up right now. But anyway, as that support goes, the economy will implode. Schiff has been a fierce critic of the Fed and its policies for years, and his warnings have proven to be prophetic. In August of 2006, when the Dow was hitting new highs nearly every day, Schiff said in an interview, "The United States is like the Titanic, and I'm here with the lifeboat trying to get people to leave the ship. I see a real financial crisis coming for the United States." That's me too. I mean, I'm like the sky is falling. I'm not. I'm just telling you, get ready for this. It's going to happen. He says just over a year later, the meltdown that became the Great Recession began, just as Schiff predicted. Oh, and then as he predicted as well, the subprime mortgage bubble burst. That again wasn't a hard prediction either. My mom and I were mortgage brokers during that whole time, and we used to look at each other and say, "This is going to end badly."
Even I was looking at it. I mean, I remember a few years before I even considered buying a house, I'm like looking at this, I'm saying, are these houses really worth what they're asking? I'm driving down the street one day, and it's like, are they really worth what they're asking?
You know, I was at ground zero. Phoenix, Arizona was ground zero in the subprime mortgage market when the whole market came tumbling down. People in the 1929 stock market crash jumped out of windows for far less reason than I had. Trust me, everything went. I was working at one of the biggest real estate companies in the city, and people were at the time they're driving Mercedes, BMWs, you name it, living in $1 million mansions and so forth. And then all of a sudden, when that bomb hit us, it was a common sight to see people having their vehicles repossessed. Divorces were rampant. People lost their homes. It was very, very depressing. And Schiff says that this next one is going to make that look like child's play. Yep. His recent warnings, however, have been even more alarming. Will they also be true? He has a book called The Real Crash: How to Save Yourself and Your Country. Writes that when the real crash comes, it will be worse than the Great Depression. Unemployment will skyrocket, credit will dry up, and worse, the dollar will collapse completely, wiping out all savings and sending consumer prices into the stratosphere. Now, the BRICS nation, like I talked about, they're creating this other currency because they know this. They know they're outsiders looking in, and they can see this. We can't, though. Some people can, but the average person, the people that I'm friends with, who keep their heads stuck in the sand and make fun of me because I buy precious metals, they don't have a clue.
I get it too from people. I mean, these people I work with think I'm crazy for not having a 401k, for not having a savings account, and for buying silver.
He said, according to polls, the average American is indeed sensing danger. A recent survey found that 61% of Americans believe a catastrophe is looming, yet only 15% feel prepared for such a deeply troubling event. While Schiff's predictions can be grim, he also offers step-by-step solutions, blah, blah, blah. According to Schiff, the crash and what follows can be beneficial, but only for those who understand beforehand what is happening and have time to prepare for the devastation. All we can do now is prepare for the crash, Schiff said. If we brace ourselves properly and control the impact, we will survive it. And these people, the rich got richer by this last crash, by the way, because they bought when the market bottomed out. And they're probably going to do the same again. But unfortunately, the dumbos, like some of my friends are, they won't start buying precious metals until they start seeing them rise. How stupid is that?
Yeah.
They're gonna see that the smart money's is already in precious metals. Has already been there for some time, and they already are. By the way, Warren Buffett, Soros, all those.
I was going to mention them.
They're all out of stocks right now. Their equities, they're gone. They're done. It's just the poor sucker who's got his 401k tied up in it, and the little guy, he's going to be left holding the bag again. and we're going to be thrust into a situation similar to what the Soviet Union used to be, where you're going to have the elites at the top, you're going to have zero middle class, and you're going to have a bunch of poor people, and there's going to be tyranny, lots of it. So get ready for it. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry it's such a depressing, thing, but to say, but I don't see any. It's like the storm cloud you can see on the horizon. You're not sure when it's going to get here, but you know it's going to.
And like Kevin said some time ago, he says, if you want to see what's really going on in the world, or what's really going on, look at fiction, look at TV shows.
Look at The Walking Dead.
Yeah. Another example is you look at TV shows that have to do with the breakdown of society. Most recently, the show Revolution, which lasted 2 seasons. It got canceled after last season. What is of value to them in that society? Precious metals. Everything is done with precious metals. Now, that didn't come out of the clear blue sky. The writers of that show knew. They know the intrinsic value of precious metals.
If your politicians aren't telling you what's on the way, you can tell what's on the way by watching what we call fiction. Our entertainment is closer to the real truth than what we're told by our media.
I believe that anymore.
I mean, look at The Walking Dead. The zombies is just a
metaphor. It's a metaphor for.
You're going to see people out on the streets.
Yeah.
When all this stuff happens, the economy collapsing, war and so forth. That's what you're going to see, and you're going to have you have to protect yourself from gangs, and I hate it is a Mad Max situation when something like that happens.
Oh, by the way, they're making a new Mad Max movie.
Oh, great timing.
With a new different actor.
Yeah, I think
it's coming out this year.
I don't think Crazy Mel could pull it off anymore.
Although I just saw him
wacko.
Just saw him a few weeks ago in The Expendables 3, and he plays a pretty good bad guy.
Well, he is a bad guy.
He plays a bad guy like he's it's all a matter of fact. Your phone's fast.
Oh, slow, you mean?
Or slow, yeah. But no, Mel plays the bad guy like it's just another day at the office.
You have to admit that those old YouTubes that his ex recorded him on were entertaining.
Yeah, I'd put those right up there with the Alec Baldwin ones where he's on the phone with us, or the David
Hasselhoff. Now we're laughing because I get called Hasselhoff all the time.
Yeah.
I look sort of like him. Some people tell me, but there are some wackos in Hollywood. I think you almost have to be. I think, which, oh, by the way, I won't get into it right now because we don't have any time. I've been reading some interesting stories about Hollywood and how certain people actually sell themselves to the dark side to get things done in Hollywood.
And by the way, speaking of Hollywood, kudos to Kaylee Cuoco of Big Bang Theory. She's the one that plays Penny. She actually came out this week and said, I don't see anything wrong with being a good wife to your man.
Oh, yeah, she got a bunch of heck for that, didn't she?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I kudos to her for coming out and saying that.
Is that a strange concept that anybody would criticize you for that you want to do, you want to show love to someone you love?
Exactly.
And what better way than cook and so forth? And a husband does things likewise. He fixes things around the house. You take care of one another. That's what a marriage is.
And that's a lucky guy because she's also hot.
read a headline today. I guess we'll finish up with this. Didn't read the article though because it looked very depressing. It said that many marriages these days are sexless.
Oh man, really?
Yes. I would imagine, I didn't read it, so can only hypothesize that it has to do with, lots of problems.
Who knows? Well, I don't know.
Well, I can vouch. I've been divorced. Things, guess when I got divorced? My divorce proceedings started 2006, right before the subprime, and finished in 2007, right? Economics destroys everything.
It's not only that, I think it's expectations too. Anyway. All right, folks. Well, that wraps up another show. We are back.
Sorry for the downer. One day we'll just tell jokes.
Lean and Mean in 2015. We'll be right back next week at the same time, same channel. And while you're at it, hey, check out the radio station that we broadcast from, www.phoenixundergroundradio.com. Check us out on Facebook, both the radio station, and check out the Saving the Republic website that we have up there. And hopefully we'll be posting some content up there. It's been a while. I'm trying to rebuild the website, get it a little more user-friendly, looking a little bit better, and we're going to start posting stuff up there before long. All right, we'll see you next week, folks. Bye-bye.
God bless.